our motto of the course is to learn Oracle DBA. That's the main motto of the course. So Oracle DBA, and I will tell you what are the topics we will discuss today. And also I will also tell you on what are the things, so what are the other areas other than Oracle DBA you require, and what is the career security we will have when we come and learn Oracle DBA now, because Oracle DBA is not a new technology to learn, right? So what are the add-ons we require, and these things we will be I will be discussing. But before that, let me tell you, our main motto of this course is to learn Oracle DBA. You have to become a Oracle DBA database administrator. So yeah, Oracle is having lots of products. It's having more than 300 products, out of which one is your database. So it's not that only database is the product. They have ERP, they have many softwares. Operating system also they have. There is an operating system called OEL, Sun Solaris, and in ERP also, if you know, there are lots of other things. So now coming to this Oracle DBA, this can be a package. You cannot simply say I am running Oracle DBA and that's enough. So for this, obviously Oracle database is your RDBMS, Relational Database Management System. Sorry for that. That is RDBMS. So when it is a relational database management system, I will tell you what relational and all in today or future classes. But when it is relational database management system, that database will understand only SQL. Other than SQL, there is nothing which it can understand. So you have to speak with the database only in SQL. So when it is the scenario, when that is the scenario, without knowing SQL, you cannot learn Oracle DBA. Yes, there are people who doesn't know SQL in a better way, but still they manage to work on database administration. But I don't prefer those type of environment. So you will definitely first learning SQL. So you will start with learning SQL. And one more thing. So the other thing which we have to understand here is like, in your computer, mostly in your computer, you will be using an operating system called Windows, right? So that Windows software is good with respect to the graphical user interface, with respect to the ease of using the software. But when it comes to the security and all, it's not that good. So when it comes to the security and when it comes to, removing the vulnerability, security issues and all, so mostly the servers are going to use another software called Unix, or even you can call it as Linux. So this is mandatory. That is because your Oracle database is on a computer, simple. Let us say this is a computer or this is a server, and the very first thing you have to install is operating system. So which operating system you are now going to install? If this is your personal computer, you are going to install this Windows, but as that is not personal computer, you are not going to install Windows. Instead, you are going to install any version of your Unix or Linux. So for that reason, you will definitely have to learn another thing called as like Unix operating system as well. So without knowing Unix operating system, you cannot go and say that you are a DBA. That is because your server itself is Unix, right? So other than this SQL, we are going to learn something called as Unix. This is an operating system. So yeah, in general, when you are working online, so the thing is like there will be Unix administrator to install this Unix, but ultimately you have to know what Unix is and all. So, but here we don't have any other Unix administrator, right? So that's the reason we will be learning a lot about the Unix. So when I say a lot about the Unix, it's like you will be knowing how to install the operating system as well. You will be knowing the commands which are used for Oracle DBA in day-to-day life. These things we will be discussing here. And apart from this, there are many other things. And in advanced Unix, you will be seeing something like shell scripting. Yeah, I'm not going to teach you complete shell scripting. That's again a 30 days course, but I will show you how to work with it. And now there are lots of chatbots and ChatGPT and all, or even Copilot, these things, right? You can generate a code. So that minimum knowledge I'm going to share with you with respect to Unix as well. Okay, so this comes in the progress of the course, and yeah, you will be learning this as well. So apart from this, now after learning SQL, after learning Unix, now you start with DBA. Okay, so now when I say you start with DBA, in DBA there are lots of things. So let me write it here. One of them can be architecture. First thing you have to understand is architecture. Just ignore the spellings, just concentrate on what I'm speaking better. That would be better for you and me as well. So or if you want, I can even write it. So the very 1 minute. If the spelling is wrong, please ignore it. Okay. So architecture. So when it comes to architecture, anything. I mean, let it be Oracle database administration or let it be a house construction.
Video on చేయలేనా?
Huh?
వీడియో ఆన్ చేయలేదు.
నేను ఎప్పుడు ఆన్ చేసిన అందరికి వస్తున్నట్టుంది.
వస్తలేదు.
వస్తుంది వీడియో వస్తుంది.
So yeah, let me continue. So architecture is one part. Rejoin one. So architecture is one point. So see, in this architecture there are lots of things. So the best thing is I will do one thing. I will clear this. I'll clear this and I'll like mention this thing. Oracle. And obviously you need to know something like SQL and you also need to know something like Unix. Now apart from this one, you need to know something like architecture. So what is architecture? So when I say architecture, you should understand how your Oracle database is installed, and when you start the Oracle database, how the processes are working to make sure the data is given to the user or data is sent back to the database and all. So there are lots of things. See, when you simply assume a computer, your computer is a combination of either 3 things. One is storage, and the other is like RAM, and the other thing is CPU. So any application, to be precise, most of the application, 90% of the applications will be residing in storage, in CPU, as well as in RAM. So even Oracle also is something like that. So what are the parts which are residing in RAM? What are the parts of Oracle database which are residing in CPU? What are the parts of the database or portion of the database which is residing in your storage and all, which we'll be discussing here. So if you understand architecture well, if you practice architecture well, the remaining advanced concepts will be very easy. So as part of architecture, we will be learning lots of things. So let me try to tell you, as I told you, you will be understanding these components, physical and logical components. I can say logical and physical components we will be seeing, and you will be understanding on how to start the database, how to stop the database. I mean, I'm not completely stressing on everything, how to stop and start the database, and you are going to understand lots of data files. Now, even if I speak the terminology, you may not be able to understand, but you are going to see lots of clauses in this. So once your architecture is completed, so what you have done as of now is, like, you just completed your architecture, and once you have completed the architecture, now you are good to go with your database. But that doesn't mean, so now what you have done is, like, you have taken a computer and you have installed some operating system, and then you have created something like a database here. So there will be an instance here, that's a different story again. So, but till now you are just accessing the database alone. I mean, you are the only person who is accessing the database. But ideally, you don't create a database for a single person. You are going to create a database so that multiple users will be able to connect to it from multiple different servers, I can say. Okay. So for this to happen, there should be something called as networking. So the moment you complete architecture, the other thing which you are going to learn is like networking. Okay. So you are definitely going to learn networking, and so that's the important thing which you have to understand. So what I personally saw in old students is, most of the people will get disconnected with networking. That is because the second computer arises, second PC arises. There is nothing like that in our environment. I will make sure that you understand networking very easily. And the next topic you are going to discuss is networking. So what is networking? Like, you have a database, you in architecture, you learn how to create a database, how to manage the database and all, but now you are allowing the other users to connect to the database. So that's your networking concept. So in this networking, you have a few files, and I will show you on how to create the files, and you will also understand how an operating system network works. These things also I am going to tell you. So that will be a class of 4 days at least. So that is one thing. And after the networking, so when I say Oracle database is having lots of versions. So there used to be many versions. I mean, before 10G also there are versions, but let me start from 11G, 10G or something. 11G and 12C, 19C, 21C, and 23 AI. It was actually C, but now they have changed it to AI. The name itself is changed. There is nothing more big than. So the architecture up to 11G was different. Architecture from 11G or from 12C is different. So when I say from 12C it is different, they have introduced a concept called as multi-tenant architecture, or you can even call it as CDBs and maybe I have there CDB and PDBs. So you will be learning what a CDB is and what a PDB is, and you will understand how to migrate a CDB. Yeah, CDB is nothing but a database again, a smaller database or a different type of database. So now you might be thinking one thing, you must be having a doubt, like if these are all old database versions, why should we first learn the older architecture and then why should we come to multi-tenant architecture? See, the older, you have to understand the older architecture, only then you can understand this multi-tenant architecture. Because let me tell you one thing, that Oracle itself in this particular version is giving old architecture as well as new architecture. Even in this particular version also old as well as the new. Even in this one, no, only new is there. Even in this, only new architecture is there. So the thing is, you definitely have to know the architecture with respect to 10G, 11G, 12C, 19C or 21C, whatever. So to understand that, you need to have something like multi-tenant architecture, which should be led, and we will be discussing about multi-tenant architecture and some of the management related stuff with respect to those things. So that's it. And after multi-tenant architecture, obviously, see, in architecture you have learned lots of things like how to manage the logs, how to manage the control files, data files. Data files are nothing but the ones which are having the data. Control file is something having overall control on the database. So there are, these things we have to learn in deep when it comes to actual architecture. That's the reason why I told you it will take more than 20-25 days or more than that even. So once this multi-tenant architecture is done, now you will start comparing your old architecture with new architecture, old networking with new networking, old control file system versus new control file system, old redo log file system. These are all same, which are I am speaking, but there can be something like table space. There are something like data file management, table space management. So now you have to compare between the old architecture versus new architecture. See, this is one of the things which we have to do. So once this is done, now you know how to create a database, you know how to allow the other users to connect to the database. Now people are connecting to the database and they are doing their own works. But still we have another issue. The thing is, now let us assume this is my database, and it is running fine. All of a sudden, the hard disk or this entire computer has been broken down, like it has crashed and I'm not able to restart the computer. So the database itself is in that particular storage, right? It's not computer, it's in storage. So this storage is corrupted for some reason. Then what should I do as a DBA? Your data is lost. That is because your data is in the database and your database is in that server which is crashed. So to avoid these type of failures, as a DBA, we are going to create something called as we are going to take something like backups. So immediately once you complete architecture, multi-tenant and networking, you are going to do the backups. So when you are working on the backups, you will be taking entire database backup, and you can even take few files backup. However, it depends upon the scenario, and there are lots of types of backups here. Maybe if I tell now, it won't be that good. That is because there is something like level 0, level 1 full backup, and that's a very big story again. We'll discuss on that day. So when I say database is taken backup, so what will you do with the database backup? Ultimately, you have to wait for what? For the database to crash. Once the database is crashed, then you can start restoring the database. So it's not just taking the backup. You also have to practice something like restoring it. You should know how to restore a broken database or failed database or crashed database or lost database using the backup. So you will be doing this one, and sometimes there can be a scenario like this. For example, you have a Samsung phone, for example, and your phone is almost going to die. It is very slow. You purchase a new phone. Then what will you do? Ultimately, there is a Samsung copy, some application. I don't remember the application. You copy from here to there. You clone the mobile from here to there. Both the mobiles are having the same data now. In the same way, sometimes there can be some scenarios where you have to copy the data from one environment, like production, to testing environment. So this is something like cloning and all. So there are lots of things which you are going to learn in this particular concept of backups. So now this is first concept. and let us say this is the second one, and this is the third one, and this is the fourth one. These are all in Oracle DBA itself. We are not going out of Oracle DBA. Later on, we will discuss what we are going to learn out of DBA also. Now 4 is completed, right? So once this is done, now let us assume like this. Earlier, we came to the backups because I have a database and this server is down. But still I can go there. I mean, the hard disk or storage or whatever is down there. So, or power failure or crash or something. I can go and install one more computer there. Possible, right? I can install one more computer. Yes, computer, and I can restore because you already know how to restore a database using your backups. So I can again restore this one. But let us assume there is a disaster happened. Okay. So what do I mean by disaster? Disaster is like if you remember in 2015 or something, there were floods. 2015 ending, there were floods in Chennai. Let us assume my database is somewhere in Chennai. Okay, and you know, right? There are more than 200-300 people who lost their lives in that floods. So let us say my database is also in that particular location. Now my database is drowned. Can I now go to that place or that data center and try to install a new server? It's not that easy because first your water has to be cleared, mud has to be cleared, and your NDRF people will come and they will be doing their own jobs. They will not allow you to go there and to create a new server and install a server using, there is a backup and all, but this will not work out. So for this database to again work, it will at least take some time. When I say time, it can approximately take 2-3 days or more than that. So which is not accepted in real world business. So to overcome this, there is another concept in database. So let me tell you what is that concept again. That's okay. So there is another concept that is called as data guard. So 1, 2, 3, this is 4, and let us assume this is the fifth one. So there is something like database guard. You call it as data guard. I mean, in real world, you call it as data guard. For you to understand it better, I speak this as data guard, database guard. So when you have a database in Chennai, you will also create some database somewhere in some other different geographical conditions. Chennai is a flood, it's a sea area. So this time maybe you have created one in Chennai and one in Hyderabad. So ideally users will be connecting to this database, but once this database is not available, immediately this database will be activated. Now you might be getting a doubt. So if user is doing transaction here, how will that be reflected here? Yes, it will be reflected. Every transaction immediately happening on this database will be reflected on this Hyderabad database, so that your Chennai database and Hyderabad database is in sync. So to make this sync, you need to understand what is data guard. So the next topic which we are learning would be obviously data guard. Okay. So let me erase this one. Yeah. So data guard. In data guard, you are going to learn lots of things like you will be learning something like configuring the data guard. And see, sometimes, let me ask you one thing. Let us say this is my Chennai database, this is my Hyderabad database. All of a sudden, you got a flood and all. But how will you understand if my Hyderabad database is ready to be act as the original database or primary database whenever required? That is, you have to frequently start checking. You have to. This can be primary some days and this can be standby. Sometimes this can be standby and this can be primary. So this can happen. You have to do these things. The process of testing the other database if it is ready for a disaster is called as switchover, which we do in general. So switchover activities and other. So this data guard concept, to work on this data guard concept, there are lots of commands. So to make this easy, Oracle has provided us something like so we'll also learning data guard broker. So once you configure data guard broker, and let me tell you one thing. Sometimes your Hyderabad and see, as I told you, Chennai server and Hyderabad server, right? So sometimes the transactions can be here, and due to some issue, the network might be breaking, or there can be a lag. Like for example, say here there are 1,000 transactions happened. Here there are only 800 transactions happened. So these type of issues also will be addressed in your real time. So which will be addressed by me in this course when we are discussing the data guard. So this is about your one second. So this is about your Oracle DBA. So if you are learning till here, your Oracle DBA course is completed. But this will approximately take more than 40 days or more than that. As per my knowledge, it will take at least 40 days. So let us understand other two concepts of database. Let me take a fresh page for that. So one of the concept is ASM. One of the concept is ASM. This is Oracle ASM, and this is Oracle RAC. So this comes with the same software. This ASM and RAC can be installed with the same software. But the thing is, ASM is like automatic storage management. It has nothing to do with the database. It has nothing to do with the database. Don't try to take ASM as a database related thing. Yes, we are going to keep the database there. That's it. But these two topics are not database related. Your database is already completed in the previous slide. So if you know architecture, if you know networking, if you know multi-tenant architecture, if you know backups and data guard, you are done with doing the database things. So these things are with respect to the storage. When I say ASM, this is just with respect to the storage management. When I say S, it is storage. So storage, and this is management. That's it. Automatic storage management, and RAC is we'll discuss. So don't take ASM as a concept of database. Instead, understand this is a simple storage management concept. So what are we going to do with this? Let me tell you one thing. Let us say I have a computer, and I have some storage devices connected to it. So this is one storage device, this is one storage device, this is one storage device, and this is one storage device. When I say storage device, you can assume this as SSDs for now. So this is your server. These are all the SSDs attached to your server. Okay. So let us assume your database is spread across this one, all these storages. So now the thing is, let us try to understand one thing. See, if your entire database is lost, you have a solution which is your RMAN. But what if you lose only one particular file? See, your total database size is 1, 2, 3, 4. 2 into 4, it is 8 TB. Okay, your total database size is 8 TB. So what if you lose entire 8 TB? I already told you, you have something like backups where you can go take the backup and restore the backup, and that's done. But now what I'm asking is, no, all my entire database is not corrupted. Only this particular storage is corrupted, or like let us say this particular storage is corrupted. This hard disk is failed. Now what will you do? Your database will not function. That is because some of your database files are still here. So now what should you do as a DBA? Ideally, you should go and ask your Unix administrator or storage administrator. There will be storage admin guys as well. So you have to go and ask them, storage administrator, and so that what he will do is, like, he will first remove this one, and he will purchase a new one and he will give you. But when he purchases a new SSD and when he gives it to you, that doesn't mean you have the data in that. So now you have to again use something like RMAN and restore the data. So for this to happen, how much time it takes? At least 4-5 hours, because you have to identify that this is failed, and you have to tell to the Unix guy that this is failed, and also you have to he has to procure that. If it is ready, then it's okay. If it is not ready, then he has to purchase one, and then he has to mount it to the server, and then now you have to start using your RMAN and you have to restore. Let us assume this is taking 5 hours. So are you expecting 5 hours of downtime is possible or is allowed in some business environment like ICICI Bank or HDFC Bank? Definitely that will not be allowed. So for that reason, we need some other solution. RMAN is a solution, but it's a time-taking process. So we need other solution. The other solution which we are having is ASM. So what happens with ASM is, our setup is not going to be like this in ASM. Let me draw something which can do something. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So when it comes to ASM is giving us some provisions. What do I mean by it? So this is your server. Now you are connecting 2 hard disks like this. Let us assume 2, and one more set of hard disks. Same setup. One more setup. So the same size as well. Size is also same. This seems like a skeleton, but I am trying to draw that SSD simply. So this is 2 TB. This is 2 TB. Yeah. So total 2, this is 8 and 8, 16. But you can only use 8 TB. How it is? Like, for example, you are inserting some data, you are copying some data A here. Automatically A will be written here. So this is used as a standby for this particular storage. So if there is something like B here, that will be B here, C here, D here, and D here. What I'm trying to say is the data will be redundant. What do I mean by redundant? See, for example, say there is an important photo or a very good photo of yours. You will try to keep that in some Google Drive and your mobile and all, right? You will be taking the backup of that photos and all. So in the same way, when your data is seriously important, keeping a important file or a file in multiple locations is called as redundancy. So now what are you going to do here is you are going to maintain redundancy by using this software called as ASM. So storage management, that's it. That is simply a storage management. The data inside this is again database concept. But instead of copying the data into a single disk, you are copying it to a redundant disk. So we have to discuss a lot on this. And one more thing, there is something like striping and better use of IO, but at this point of time, you will not understand what it is. Okay. So ASM is a solution for storage loss. Now let us see, earlier I was telling you a problem. Now let us try to think, this particular disk is crashed. Now as a DBA, what you should do? Ideally, you have to do nothing. That is because your database is not down. That is because your database can still access the files from here. Got it, right? So the moment this disk is down, you still can access, your user still can access the database using this particular server, this particular storage. So now what you have to do is you have to identify this is down, you have to identify that this is down, and then you have to tell the Unix guy or storage admin guy that you want a new hard disk. So the moment you ask him, the thing which he is going to do is like, let me erase this. Yeah, the moment you ask him, he will simply go and get you a new disk. But your new disk is now there, but the data is not yet there. So as a DBA, what you should do now? You have to do nothing here. So ASM itself, it says automatic, right? Automatically, it will go and copy the data from the disk which is not yet crashed or the disk which is still available. So this is the concept of ASM. ASM has nothing to do with data. ASM has only thing to do with your disks. So at a point of time, if your one disk is failed, the other disk will still continue to work and your database will be still active. This is about your ASM. So as I told you at the beginning, from beginning I am telling the same thing. Don't look this as a DBA concept. Look it as a storage management concept. Then you will understand it very better comparatively if you try to think it as something like database concept. So this is one thing. So now let us try to understand. What is cluster. So see all these concepts. See, RML is a concept which is a high availability concept. You can say, why is RML a high availability concept? For example, my database is down. So I cannot go and sit crying there, right? I have to do something. So for that reason, you have taken backup. Though you have backup, if you are not able to go to the server location itself, there is a fire accident or there is a disaster or there are some floods or something, even there can be a cyclone. So in that case, you cannot rely on the backups and all, and you cannot go to that physical location. But you can have some other location. As I told you already, you will be having two databases in two different geographical conditions, so that even one of your database is crashed, the other database will still continue to work. So this is another solution for high availability. So as we are like a doctor for database, so we have to implement all these features to the important databases. Now the other feature which we are discussing is about ASM. ASM is, as I told you, it is simply a storage solution. So if you have one disk, there is a chance of losing the disk and there is a chance of losing the database and all. But when it comes to having multiple disks using ASM, you know what? It's not just two disks in ASM. You can even configure third disk also. So you can have your redundancy 3 times. You can have one original data and 2 redundant copies. So try to understand what is redundancy. Redundancy is nothing but having multiple things. Same thing in multiple locations. That's nothing but your redundancy. So hope this makes you clear. But still, this is not ASM. This will be having lots of classes. For this to understand, you need to understand RAID features and all, which I will be telling you. Now let us think about RAC. See, we have almost saw all the issues. Then why RAC? Let us try to understand something. See, if the storage is failed or server is failed, we have something like RML. We can restore the database. if the environment or entire setup is failed, we have something like data guard. If one of the hard disk is failed, then we have something like ASL. So you have to know what is the solution for what, and what first you have to know the problem, then you have to know the solution. Without knowing the problem, you cannot, even if you know the solution, that doesn't make very big sense. Now, in the same way, what is the solution? I mean, rack is a solution for failure of RAM and see, don't take it in the straight way which I am telling, RAM and CPU. It's not failure of RAM and CPU, but let me tell you one thing. See, you know, right? One second. You know, right? So this one. See, this is my computer. This is my computer. This is my hard disk or SSD. So here is the place where my database resides. So this is the place where my management system resides. I'll tell you what is management system and what is database in a few minutes. So this is this, right? For example, there is some data in this RAM. As I told you, this is RAM. So when the moment you bring down the computer and you restart the computer, all the data in your RAM will be lost. But the data in your database will still continue to exist. You might be knowing this already. So that's the reason why when your phone seems slow, we will try to do a restart and we will try to release the space in the RAM so that the phone may work better in the next start. So now let us assume this one. Let us assume like this. See, I have a database. And this is the server through which I am managing this storage. All of a sudden, this storage server is down. Not storage server, this database server is down. So even though your database is existing, people cannot connect to this storage server directly. They have to ideally connect from here, and from there it has to connect to the database. So as your single point of server is failed, we can create like this. Instead of doing in this way, we can do like this. Let me show you how we are going to create instead. Oh, I don't know that this is available. So instead of you having a database like this, a management system and a database, you are going to have a database and you are going to have multiple management systems. So for example, this computer is down, that's okay, still the users can access the database from here. So this is a cluster mechanism. So you should first understand what is a cluster or what is a grid. So let me try to explain you what a cluster is or a grid is. So you must have heard a concept of power grid, right? Let me erase this one. I will take a new one better. This is just to explain you the power grid and all. So power grid is something like, see, I'm not good in drawing. So this is southern parts of the country and this is, northern parts of the country. Earlier what used to happen is like we used to have a power line like this. There used to be a power grid like this and we used to have another power grid like this in southern part. So here the power was surplus, I mean to say excess. Here the power is always deficient, it's not sufficient. This was insufficient, this was excess. So what they did is they combined both these things. They combined both these things in 2014 or something, and now they are calling this as a cluster. So instead of a single unit serving one particular thing and another single unit serving another particular thing, so they combine it and make a cluster so that they can do the load balancing and all. So rack is a concept of this one. So now let us assume our this particular grid is not working. You will still get the power from this grid. In the same way, let us say you have two servers with one database. Even if client is not able to access the data from this server, if this is not available, client will immediately connect to this server and start accessing the data from this server. So this is also an high availability solution with respect to your database server. This has nothing to do with any other things. This is a high availability solution with respect to the database server. Again, there is nothing with respect to database here. Your database can be accessed if you are having cluster environment in spite of one of the server is down. So this has to be understood here. Yeah, anyways, I understand these are highly technical terms and going forward you will definitely understand these things. So yeah, this is about the thing in Oracle DBA. So we are not yet completed. So let me still continue. So before learning this one, as I already told you here, we need to start with SQL. We need to start with SQL, right? So before Oracle DBA, you have to start with SQL. So what are we going to learn in SQL? See, SQL, you cannot tell that I know SQL and all. So no one can tell that I know entire SQL. If you know entire SQL, it's not a joke. It's like a practicing thing. A doctor cannot tell I know entire MBBS. That is because you don't know which requirement is good. Who expected COVID to come in 2019? In the same way, this is also something like practicing SQL is the right thing instead of saying I know SQL. So there is lots to learn in SQL. I will try to teach you as much as possible. So the first thing we are going to learn is some functions we are going to learn in SQL, some logics we are trying to get, and we will try to retrieve the data from the database, and we'll try to insert some data into the database. We'll try to modify the data in the database, and we'll also try to create some data structures. So these things we are going to do, and apart from these, there are some advanced concepts like joins. There are something like set operators. There are something like grouping the data. And yeah, recently, if anyone already know what is SQL and all, in 23 AI, there is one new feature called group by all. So instead of sometimes you'll be getting an error like not a group by expression. So for the people who know, I'm telling this. So you can use group by all. That's a new feature came with it. So set operators you will be seeing, groups you will be seeing, queries inside the queries or subqueries you can call it as. Subqueries you will be seeing. These things we will be learning in SQL. So when it comes to Unix, so there are lots of things. It will take at least 14 days. When it comes to Unix also you are going to learn lots of things. But all the things which you are learning in Unix are already known by you in Windows operating system. That's for sure. See, for example, say you will try to copy the file. You will use a command called as cp. You will try to create a file in Windows. What you will do? You will go and right click there and you will click on new file or new folder, right? So if you want to create a new folder there, you will be doing that. Here you will be doing something like mkdir, main directory. Instead of using the graphical user interface, you are going to use something called as command line interface. So this will be good to work with. And the Unix, there is lots of things in Unix to learn, changing the permissions, modifying the permissions, and editing the files. These are all very basic things. And see, whenever you feel this is tough, just zoom out and see. Don't see it in the very micro manner. Try to zoom it out and see it. And I'm anyways always there to help you. That's again a different story. So you will definitely learn Unix here. So once this Unix database is completed, rack is completed. Yeah, I missed something other than this. Maybe I should have told you in data guard. Once the rack is completed, I will tell you performance tuning. Let us say most of us know how to drive a car, right? So let us say same vehicle is given to you, everyone, and you ask to go to some 150 kilometers or somewhere 150 kilometers. So it's not guaranteed that every one of us can get the same mileage. So that depends upon lots of things. Maybe when I am going, there might not be any traffic. When you are going, there can be lots of traffic. So the mileage, the performance, or whatever, this can be varied. So you can teach driving, but you cannot teach him driving in such a way that he can get the best mileage out of it. So that's what I'm trying to say here. Yeah, but still you will be learning all the protocols here. When the query is slow, what you have to check. When the database itself is slow, what you have to check. And when the database is not having any incoming connections, what you have to check. Everything will be told to you here. And let us continue with other things with respect to database. There is something like OEM. This is a monitoring tool of Oracle. So I will be telling you how to install OEM, which you won't do in your lifetime. You will definitely not do in your lifetime. I will guarantee it. But still, I will tell you how to install OEM. That's for sure. So once this is done, we will try to understand. You don't know what OEM is or what target is. There are something like targets here, addition of targets, deletion of targets, setting the metrics and all. So these concepts we will be learning. This is required. That's the bare minimum which is required. So there is something after the rack is completed. There is something like patching. There is something like upgrading the database, and we also discuss something like transportable table spaces. So these things will be taught to you. As I told you, Oracle DBA, you will crack the interview.